So what is content strategy?
Content strategy is planning for the creation, aggregation, and governance and exploration of content and an experience. So it isn't just the upfront stuff, certainly not just copywriting. Instead, it's kind of figuring out how all of that comes together and how it exists over time.
Okay. So can you provide a couple of examples, effective examples of content strategy
Sure.
being put to work?
Yeah. Let me take an example from kind of outside of our industry. I think it's a very good, tangible thing to look outside of what we do on the web. I always love looking toward museum exhibits and exhibit design. I think that's a great example of content strategy and total design all coming together to create an experience for, sometimes it's a set target audience, sometimes it's a more changing or multiple target audiences that are usually moving through an experience. Not unlike how our target audiences might want to move through a certain click path on a website. They're trying to learn about something, and the exhibit designer is acting sort of as both designer and information architect and content strategist, certainly with a team of other people, to say, well, what are our overall communication goals? What do we want somebody to take from this experience? And then what are the right content types to do that? And is that a dynamic experience? Are we pulling in content from multiple sources? Are we saying, when the exhibit launches, we're going to have blue text screened on white walls and very short, choppy sentences to have that connotation, that whiff of, say, an Arctic experience, if we're talking about life in the Arctic. What are the content types that'll do that? And then maybe over time, we're going to update the exhibit, pull in more relevant examples to talk about maybe the impact of global warming on life in the Arctic, change that to keep it current, that type of thing. I think really good exhibit design, it's a great example of content strategy, visual design, and information architecture all working together to create a holistic, consistent experience.
Interesting. So a phrase that I ran across when I was putting together some questions for you is message architecture. What is that?
A message architecture is a prioritized list of communication goals or brand attributes. Usually when I'm starting to work with a client, and I guess we can take it into the real world now of the web, but when I'm starting to work with a client, I'm going to sit down with them and say, well, what are you trying to communicate? What's that order of priority? Is it most important to look innovative? Is it most important to look experienced or traditional? And what does traditional mean anyhow? And then we'll figure out, well, what is that order of priority? And that's kind of a high-level strategy. I'll document that in a message architecture, which is just that one-page outline list of brand attributes. Based on that, then we can start making tactical decisions. If it's most important to look, say, innovative, then maybe we're going to prefer certain nomenclature that positions the brand as being a little bit more hip and cutting edge, and maybe we're going to use shorter sentences and a lot of active voice. Whereas if they had very different goals, we would have different tactical decisions. And same for visual design, too. A visual designer and a content strategist or copywriter can all look toward a message architecture.
Okay. So is there any relationship between content strategy and inbound marketing?
Yes. It's definitely a contentious relationship at times. I think it's fair to say that inbound marketing can be a component of an effective content strategy. Really, if inbound marketing is the idea of creating a hub for content that positions your brand as a thought leader so that people either by search or by association with your brand itself, they're constantly coming to that hub, to your site to say, well, what do they have to say about this? Sometimes I think in the worst methods of execution, it's nothing more than kind of a link farm with a whole lot of keywords on it. Maybe great for search engines, not so great for users. When it's done well, it really positions the brand as a thought leader. And it's important to consider, too, that while everybody is getting involved in publishing now, not all brands need to be thought leaders. For some, that's not a part of their message architecture.
Right. So the last question I have for you, we were talking about hubs as people coming to it. But how can companies create and manage off-site engagement through the likes of Twitter and Facebook?
Sure. So as brands become more diverse, I think, in in owning or delegating ownership of their web presence. They start maybe with that central platform, their main primary website. But then there's what's going on Twitter and on Facebook, and maybe they've got other online communities. Maybe they're also contributing to knowledge on other people's websites, if maybe it is important for them to be a thought leader. Throughout all of that, I think it's important for the brand to maintain a consistent brand promise, a consistent message architecture, a consistent tone. So that's where something like an editorial calendar and editorial style guidelines will come into play to say, what are we talking about when and with what sort of terminology? Because if they're using certain terminology on their website, they sure as well can use that in Twitter too and maintain that consistent voice. So I think by aligning around and really rallying around the right tools, they can contribute, publish appropriately, and also retweet and support others publishing within their community.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.